you haven't watched this movie yet, there are a lot of like flashing lights that lead to epilepsy.
Yeah.
Like the screensaver has like hypnotic things. Like all this hypnotist stuff has like a flashy effect. And I mean, even for people who don't have epilepsy, those scenes can be really disorienting and kind of annoying to watch. Like that one scene with when Helen
they're in the cage,
tries to defeat the screensaver when they're in the cage. That was hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Not because it was like weird or anything. It was because it was like the whole like hypnotizing effect is on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So if you're sensitive to those kinds of things like strobe lights or flashing lights, rapid flashing lights, maybe don't see this movie.
Yeah. Greetings from Cybertron. This is SoundJack here with another episode of SoundJack's Rambles. And today I am with Alyssa.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about The Incredibles 2. We did talk about the first Incredibles movie back in March, so you can go check out that podcast to see what we thought about the first movie, along with my friend Noah, who is unfortunately not here for this one because he's off with a show, and I figured he'd be busy, so but he's having a good time, and we're going to have a good time talking about The Incredibles 2.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know, it has been 14 years since Incredibles 2 has come out from Pixar, and they have now put out this is a sequel. The sequel. And Alyssa, do you want to give a quick non-spoilery plot summary of The Incredibles 2?
Okay, so basically, the movie picks up literally right where the original Incredibles left off. So it's like, the Incredibles fighting the Underminer, and basically after the events of the first movie, the Pars don't have a house anymore, so they're sort of at a loss of what to do, and the agency that like helps them out, relocating them, whatever, has been shut down, so they're out of luck until this telecommunications executive guy in a suit comes up to them and is like, hey, I want to, that pesky law that makes it so that superheroes are illegal, I reverse that with like a whole campaign. And so in order to do this campaign, I wanted you guys' help. And so basically he has Elastigirl, or Helen Parr, go off and do some superheroing in order to like act as like the figure of the political campaign. And while that's happening, Mr. Incredible stays home and watches the kids, and then while the girl is out doing her thing, they find out that there's this supervillain named Screenslaver who is hypnotizing people and trying to I guess just make problems. So then Helen needs to find out how to beat him. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, without getting too much into spoilers. Yeah, so that's just summary. And before we get into real spoiler territory, I definitely recommend you go see this movie. It's definitely doing well at the box office if money amounts don't convince you, because I think it is Pixar's biggest opening weekend. I believe that's the case. I believe it's Pixar's biggest opening weekend for a movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely worth the go. Alyssa, what do you think?
So before we started recording, and like even now, I have a lot of feelings about this movie, and I'm having a hard time really like putting them to words. It's just, there's a lot of things that are going through my head, and I'm very all over the place with how most of my thoughts. Like on one, like whether or not I recommend it to someone, I mean, the average moviegoer, I say, yeah, I think it's worth your money. And I think, like, you'll enjoy what, if you it's I think to see what you get kind of movie, put it that way.
Hmm.
That makes sense. Like, if you watch the trailer and you're really excited and you see it and you're like, wow, this looks great, I think you'll definitely like it, or at least you're more likely to like it. But I think if you're looking for a movie that is like on par or greater or better than the original, I don't think this is that movie. But I'll talk more about why I think that is as we go on. But I don't want to. I'm not trashing it. I'm not saying it's like a bad movie. I don't think that's the case. I'm just. It's very complicated. It's very complicated.
Do we want to get into spoiler stuff so we can get talking about the complicated stuff?
Yes, but I'm just gonna. So just in conclusion, it's a see. I think it's a see what you get kind of movie. And for me personally, put it this way, I don't. Yeah, I just don't. I personally don't know how I feel about the movie, where I would place it on a ranking. Put it that way. And if I'm gonna recommend, if I were to go to my past self and say what I recommend it to them, I'd probably be like don't maybe lower your expectations a little bit. But that's all. I wouldn't actively. I don't regret seeing it either. It's very complicated. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Okay.
So that's what I'll say.
Okay.
Do with that what you will.
Okay. All right. So yes, since this movie is less than 2 weeks out, we are going to give a big old spoiler warning here. So turn away now if you don't want to be spoiled for this movie. All right. So you have lots of thoughts. Let's get started with you. What do you have lots of thoughts about?
So okay. Like I said, I've been tossing this movie in my head for the past many days, and my thoughts are tossed salad at this point. Just nice tossed salad. I think my general thoughts, like my general idea of how I feel about the movie is that there are many good moments in this movie that I love. Like there are little like all these different scenes. Like if you're to like take little scenes, little episodes, I totally think they're cool. My problem though is I'm not sure they like gel together in the way that I want them to as a movie. So I think this is one of those movies where the whole is less than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
Okay, go on. I mean,
it's so hard. Oh my god, and I'm not even sure what it is. Like that doesn't make sense to me. I think like I said, it's weird because there's a lot of things that I do like about this movie. You know, there's like, let's talk about the positives before I like really get into what my problems are, because I feel really bad. Oh man, this is probably like, how is this movie for me to talk about? I just don't know. Like, I'm lost.
Okay. Well, you said start with positive, so it's like positive.
Yeah. So positives, things that I like. I really liked Elastigirl, and this is incredible getting sort of the spotlight. I mean, she was a pretty major character, and we did see her in action quite a bit in the first movie, but I think it's really great to see her like being there and like doing all the action stuff. And seeing her being really capable. But like I said, it's also like it's not like it's nice. It's nice. It's very nice, and I like that. I really liked her motorcycle. I thought that was really cool, and that was a great use of her powers. I really liked. I liked Violet's subplot to an extent. I'm just seeing more of her because I think she was one of the characters in the first out of Dash and Violet in the first movie. I think kind of got short on the stick. I mean, she was still an important character, and she learned to be more courageous, but at the same time, you know, she wasn't like a main focus. I think Dash got a little more screen time than she did. So I guess they reversed for this one. I think either they got like pretty equal, or like Violet might have gotten a little more focus. I'm not even really sure. I mean, I guess there was the whole thing about Dash like having to learn math, but there wasn't like any.
But that was more an obstacle for Bob.
Yeah, exactly. Like he really didn't have any sort of problem or subplot that he was dealing with. He was just there. So, and I really liked all of Jack's powers. I think they're creative. The whole like, you know, be seen with Edna Mode and Jack, that her interaction, powers, and all that stuff. That was really funny. I loved how she was like didn't want to have Jack at first, but then once he started to be cool, she was like, oh man, she definitely had the researcher in her. I like you could tell, like. Like, she was like, oh, I don't want, this. Then as soon as she's like, research potential? Hell yes, let's grab on that.
Yep.
And yeah, so that was something I really liked. I thought the animation was gorgeous. Like, holy crap.
Like, such a step up from 2004, but I mean, 14 years of advancement, obviously. And
yeah, I mean, that's an obvious thing, but it looks really nice. It's a really good look to me. So I might as well say that too. So that's something I really liked. I really liked the whole 60s vibe of the movie. I think a lot of people don't realize that The Incredibles is set in the 60s. Like, I guess it looks kind of generic-ish enough that people are like, it's like stylized today, because like there are computers at one point. But I think this movie kind of puts its foot down and sort of solidifies itself as a, like, maybe slightly more high-tech version of the 60s. So I like that. Score is awesome. That Incredibles theme, the jazz is, like, great. I love John Ratzenberger's cameo, A+. So as you can see, there's a lot of things I like about this movie.
Yeah.
So that there's like lies my problem. It's like I love a lot of parts of it, but at the same time I hesitate to say that this is a movie that I think is like really good, If that makes sense, it's really weird. But those are all the things that I liked. I don't know how you felt about all those things I mentioned. Did you like the things? You didn't like the things?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely liked all of that. And I think the movie definitely did a very good job on like the role reversal aspect from the previous movie of Bob being the stay-at-home parent and Elastigirl being the one to go out to be the breadwinner. Which it's not even just like straight up, oh, this is just what's happening now. They even, when they're at the motel, consider that as a possibility.
Yeah.
And Bob's more at that time, Bob's more insistent on it, but it doesn't seem opposed to having, what's the last name? Helen. Doesn't seem as opposed to Elastigirl doing it, but when it's a superhero job, oh boy.
Yeah, and so that might be one of those things that I didn't. Okay, so like, what kind of irritated me was like how when Bob Parr, whenever like whenever his wife would call him, like that one scene when they called, and then she was all like, "Oh man, like I did all this cool stuff today," and then he was just all like angry. I get why I did that. Like, yeah, he's jealous, and that's fine. But at the same time, I kind of wanted that to like come up as like a flaw, you know, because they more so played it up for laughs, like, haha, he's angry. That was kind of what that scene was. There wasn't really any, like, moment where, like, he realized, you know, maybe I shouldn't be so focused on myself. Because that was kind of the whole point of the last movie, too, right? Like, you know, he was so focused that he didn't consider his family. Well, they almost got killed. You know, like, that was kind of the whole conflict of the last movie. I mean, not that, like, people, not that I express care to change them, you know, and I guess it is realistic for him to still be jealous, and at least he's not, like, actively trying to, like, go out there despite everything, you know, he's still, like, reluctantly, you know, saying things to what do you call it, like, you know, I'm supportive of you and whatever, but at the same time, I feel like if you're gonna have that, it felt weird for it to not be addressed as like a flaw, you know? Like, then I'm sitting here like this, he doesn't care that he's not here, like being all like, oh, that's so cool, you know what I mean? Like, he's just gonna actively, like, not even like I feel like I would have bought it a little more if it wasn't so visual. Like, if they didn't play it up for laughs, then I'd be like, oh, okay. But like, because they were like, haha, isn't it so funny? It kind of felt really weird to me. I don't know. But who knows? Maybe I'm being a little too, I don't know. That's just how I felt about it.
Okay. I mean, I felt this fine. I do think the more so bringing it up as a flaw would be could have improved the movie. Like, it is addressed when they're talking over it at the motel afterwards.
Yeah.
Very explicitly, and then like Bob kind of settles on, and then he just yeah. But yeah. But the part of the movie we haven't talked about is the villain part. So this is holy crap, heavy spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and still and they're still here, it's just this is the most spoiler part of the film, and it is involving the screenslaver.
Yes.
Who, while originally caught, was actually the decoy, basically the red herring, and it turns out the actual screenslaver is Evelyn Dever, the sister of Winston Dever, the head of DevTech, who is the one that is trying to help the superheroes come out of hiding and make them legal again.
Yes.
And I will say, I thought we didn't talk about the movie too much after we watched it together.
No.
The one thing I think I mentioned was that Evelyn's response and reasoning did not seem substantial. Not substantial. Her reasoning in itself is not unjustified.
No.
It's the extent to which she's doing it. But we can also discuss that for the same reasons for Winston, because the nice thing about them is that they are both having completely opposite reactions to the same event. And while with Winston's response, because his father died because he was good friends with, well, he didn't die because he was good friends with supers. He happened to be good friends with some supers. And then there was a robbery, and then after the superhero law was passed, he tried to call for superhero help, but he couldn't get anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Which in the movie it seems to be because of the law. However, I think it's actually because Syndrome got to them, possibly.
I mean, did he work that fast?
No, I mean because I forget who the other one was, but the one was specifically Gazer Beam.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So depending upon how the Syndrome timeline works, it could have been Gazer Beam had already been killed off. Um, if
I
it
mean,
if the
if
murder
it was right after, like, I guess they don't really give you a timeline, but remember, Syndrome, like, I forget how old he is. If he's like a kid, then he's in his 20s at the 15-year mark, so he would probably still be in high school at best.
I thought he was
I'm
more
not
like a
sure.
tween. I thought he was like
And, like, Gazer Beam was one of the later superheroes that he got caught in his
true.
web. It wasn't one of
Okay.
the first ones. So, I don't know. I mean, like, possible, sure, but I don't really know if that's really it. Like, I think Gazer Beam probably, like, is more, was probably one that got caught, like, 10 years after the fact or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I could have been wrong. I made a connection and I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But now you're saying that, yeah, that makes more sense. But anyway, so father calls superheroes. They don't show. He dies. Winston's response is to try to change public perception about superheroes to make them legal again. Because if the superheroes were legal, they could have saved his father. Evelyn's response is that there was a bunker and there was a safe room in their house that they could have gone to, and their mother encouraged her husband to go into, but he refused. And Evelyn doesn't want to be dependent on anyone and doesn't want the world to be dependent on supers. So her response is to try to completely ban supers forever and just like don't like in later years don't even give them a second chance. That they're just terrible, so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think this. Yeah, I do think. I mean, I think so this is the problem that I have sometimes with like surprise reveal villains, is that you spend so much time trying to make sure you don't know who the villain is that like you don't really get like a good like way to like you don't get to develop or when they finally figure out why they're evil, it's like it doesn't like jive, it's kind of the same problem that I have with Hans from Frozen. I guess spoilers for Frozen. But like in that movie, it's a surprise reveal, but Hans before the reveal doesn't show any signs of any villainy or like any sort of thing. And like, yeah, you can say he was pretending the whole time, but to me, I feel like villains are more compelling when you like can see where their villain comes from. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At least in my opinion. Like, take Syndrome from the first movie. We don't know who Syndrome is until the reveal happens of who he really is. That he's Buddy from the past and in the future is like not a huge like plot twist. And the fact that we knew who he was, we saw him get rejected by Mr. Incredible in the past. And we observed this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he finally explained himself, we were like, oh, okay. Like, it kind of makes a little sense because you saw what happened and you can sort of make that logical jump that, okay, he got bunked by a superhero and decided to, invent stuff to then, like, become Syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's kind of what they were trying to do with Evelyn, but I feel like, and we do have the moments where, and they do, and we do interact with her more than her brother, really. Mm-hmm. Like, Helen and Evelyn have a lot more conversations with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's a little better, but I don't know. I feel like if we sort of, I mean, I will say that while I was watching it at some point, I don't remember when, and it wasn't like too early, but I kind of figured out that Evelyn was a villain. I mean, considering how many times they said that she was an inventor,
Yeah,
and the fact that the screenslaver is a inventor, and then I think it was at the moment when the decoy was like, I don't know what's going on, like I have no idea what's happening, and I was like, oh, okay,
and it's definitely.
he's not. It's probably Element, because like what?
You continue. I'm sorry.
Okay. And so like it as that happened, I was like, oh, I bet it's Evelyn. She talked a lot about how she invents all technology that then Winston sells. And then there's that whole conversation with Elastigirl about how who's more important, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like I feel like I will give this movie credit that they didn't like do the Frozen thing where they didn't plant anything to make you suspect Hans at all. They, you know, you could, if you were observant, you could sort of see it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since even her design too, she's not as colorful as Winston. She's more in the background. She doesn't seem as interested in the superhero stuff as he is. Like the pieces are all there for you to kind of piece together. So that's nice, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't trying to really throw you for a loop. They are, but like still giving it. It's the kind of reveal that makes stuff effect, which I'm happy with. Sometimes, you know, when people do this, the reveal is like completely out of left field and takes you out of it. So I'm happy that that's the case. But yeah, I also think also Evelyn is just, as a character, she's very like blasé too. Like her tone is very neutral all the time. Yeah. I mean, sometimes she gets upset and angry, but like most of the time she's pretty like, oh, you know, like she has like sort of like very not lethargic, but kind of calm talking.
Yeah.
And she doesn't seem to have a lot of huge emotions, so that's also maybe why, you know, her backstory and her desires aren't really up center. And I also think that like maybe if she had like shown more desire to like not rely on anyone, like maybe if she was like, I don't really care about Winston, or not necessarily really care, but if there's more evidence that she was like maybe just using him for an end, of like sort of, you know, if there's more evidence playing along, maybe you would buy it more. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you would fix that, but I do agree with my point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you were going to say something at one point, right?
Yeah.
I was talking.
Yeah. About the reveal when the screenslaver was like, "Wait, what's going on?"
Yeah.
At that point, I was definitely certain it was one of the two, but I was not positive with which two. Like, you are right that Evelyn was the inventor, but it's entirely possible Winston could have been taking the technology and using it for own purposes to forcibly bolster the reputation of superheroes to get his way.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But again, I feel like there was definitely more pieces towards Evelyn, like even earlier on.
Yeah, because he does have a moment of like, but they could have hid in the bunker, and he was like, "Not now."
Yeah, yeah, like so, there's that.
And
yeah, I just feel like there's that's why. I mean, I'm not saying it like if you're totally surprised that I'm like shame on you. I'm just saying that I kind of put it together.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was leaning more Evelyn than Winston, but I was like, it could be Winston. Could be. But I was going to make another comment. You were commenting like the Evelyn's response isn't as believable. I think it is. or at the very least as believable as Winston's desire to the justification for Winston's desire to bring superheroes back is as justified as Evelyn's desire to get rid of superheroes.
Yeah. No, I'm not criticizing her motive. I was just saying that she doesn't, like, I was trying to say, like, why the impact doesn't, like, because your criticism was that, like, Evelyn's, like, motivation wasn't as strong as, like, other villains, right?
No, that wasn't my criticism. My criticism
then?
It seemed like a very extreme response.
Oh.
For such a specific event.
I mean,
but again,
that was sort of Syndrome's response too. He got tossed out of the truck, and I mean, I guess he almost died, but like,
yeah,
he was abandoned by a hero, and that was what drove him to the edge. So
yeah, but I mean, he's also a typical fanboy that thinks he controls it, and if it's not exactly due to his wishes, he would rather destroy it.
Right. And again, this is kind of like I guess this is also the problem again with trying to fool the audience so much, you know, that we don't get to like see more of the character. Does that make sense?
But
because like with Syndrome, it's not like a huge reveal. It's kind of because we know who he is for like the majority of the movie. At least once he's introduced. He's introduced and then we unmask him later, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's what I mean when I say like he might come across as more memorable as a villain because we spend more time with him and we get to know his motivation and his character more. Whereas with Evelyn, for about half of the movie, you know who she is, but you don't really know who she is until it's finally revealed towards the latter third. So it's like, what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least that's what I would think would be the difference as to why Syndrome might be a more memorable villain than Evelyn.
Yeah. I mean, also Syndrome also died, and that definitely makes him more memorable. Because
I guess, yeah.
I just wanted to comment because I was thinking of this. When I was in the theater, I was like, wait, they killed someone off in a Disney movie like that? I'm like, oh, wait, they did that with Syndrome. And then I was like, oh, wait, she's fine.
Yeah. So, are we done with positives? I mean, I guess we were complaining about the villain for the last couple minutes. Maybe we've gone off positives. Is there more positives we want to talk about? I guess you, because I feel like I've been talking a lot. So,
no.
If there's anything you want to talk about?
Dash. Dash was quite fun with all of his crazy powers. You did talk about it a bit with the end mode stuff.
You mean SoundJack's?
Yes.
Dash is the one who runs, Michael, because dashing is a form of running.
Yeah. Well, once Frozone's reaction is just crazy. It's like, what? That is a freaky baby. And it's also nice we got like in-universe lore justification for what's going on. That
I knew you were going to bring up the lore. I feel like this is probably where we might disagree, but
I mean, yes, it does to a bit feel like the lore is trying to fit what has been established to a little bit, because the justification for this is like, when young, supers can display multiple different powers. SoundJack's is special because it seemed like he was a bit of a late bloomer in that regard. He also just has so many powers. And this is all delivered to us through Edna. And then there's a moment later on when Helen is like, I missed SoundJack's first power. And it's like, you missed his first 17.
Right.
Because he has that many. So what's your disagreement with that?
I mean, it's not necessarily. So I actually thought you were totally switching topic, but so I guess for me, I guess I kind of wondered more about the universe of The Incredibles after I first watched it, but I don't know if I'm really going into this movie looking for answers.
No, neither was I.
Mean? And it's kind of nice, I guess, to know about those kinds of things, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess the whole lore aspect of it kind of makes it feel more like a Marvel movie, as opposed to a movie.
I mean,
I understand that the rules of the universe are a thing you got to establish, but at the end of the day, I don't know. It didn't really, to me, one of the. Anyway, you know what? I'll talk about this later. Let's move on.
Okay.
Other things that you liked, Michael?
The raccoon part was interesting.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Funny and interesting. Yeah, it was just, yeah.
But it was kind of filler a little bit.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad. It was kind of, it wasn't necessary.
There was a bit more to give
why not, I guess.
Jack some more work because Jack Jack's a much bigger part of this film than the last film.
Right.
So yeah, the raccoon scene was fun, and Bob just being so tired, just staying awake, just trying to keep control of Jack.
Yeah.
Very fun. I heard someone make a comment about it in the theater, and I'm not sure if you did, Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
But I just was like, "Oh, sugar bombs! I know that. That's from Fallout."
Oh.
Yeah, that's the cereal in Fallout, the Fallout universe.
Oh.
I was like, oh,
well, no, I didn't know that, but
no, yeah.
Reference, I guess.
I mean, I doubt that was intentional.
Oh, actually, you just reminded me. Speaking of maybe unintentional coincidences, we haven't talked about the other superheroes yet.Maybe we should mention those guys.
Oh yeah. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, so there's the. Yeah.
So at a point there is a point in the film where Winston brings together a bunch of superheroes that have been in hiding that do have superhero names and costumes, just to help with the stuff and the legalese stuff.
Yeah.
Just to list them really quick, they are Void, who is the most notable of the group, who has the ability of thinking with portals. Basically, she can make portals and voids.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and then we have Crusher, who can crush things with his mind. Helix, who has the power of he has electric powers.
He has zappy hands.
Yeah, he's and then there's Reflux, who's an elderly super who has who can spit up hot lava.
Yep.
And then we had Brick, who he was big and strong, and he was a brick. That was pretty obvious. And then Screecher was the last guy's name, I want to say, who was basically like an owl person.
Yep.
So yeah, and then
yeah. Anyone else did we miss?
I don't think so.
Okay. But basically, the reason why I'm bringing them up is that Screecher looks way too similar to the Dark Owl from Miraculous Ladybug. And let me tell you, the whole time I saw him on screen, I was like, this frustrated me so much. They did I'll when we're editing, I'll put both of them on screen. But I'm telling you, they look extremely similar. They're pretty older guys. Their suit has an orangey, black, brownish color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And their symbols look pretty similar too. And I'm like, was this intentional? that was as soon as I saw it. Now I will to be fair, Screecher and Dark Owl are two different people. Screecher is more of an actual owl.
Yeah.
His moves are a bit more owl-like. I think he has. Does he have like sonic powers? I forget. Or is he just an owl?
I think he screeched. He shattered a window with his screech at one point.
Yeah, so like he has like sonic powers, superpowers. Whereas Dark Owl from America's Ladybug is more of just a Batman homage, rather than anything too specific. But the fact that they're so similar looking that I'm just like, either this is like the craziest coincidence ever, or someone stole something. Oh man. Like I said, I'll put both of them on screen so you guys can see, but like they look so similar. It's pretty frightening.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a thing I noticed. Did you make that connection, or was that the only one?
I did not.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
yep.
that was the one thing. Also, speaking of things that are look different, or not similar but different, Tony Ridinger, however you say his last name, looks so different how in the first movie.
Who?
Like, oh my god. Really
oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Like his face structure looks completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of one of those don't beware of who you call ugly in middle school kind of memes, you know?
Even though this movie takes place right after that one did.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not, like, completely different, you know, to the point where you wouldn't be able to recognize, oh, that's Tony.
Yeah.
But when I saw him at first, I was like, that's Tony? Like, he looks so different. I think his hairstyle might even be different, too. Yeah. Like, I think he had more of, like, a bowl cut in the first movie, and then now he has more of, like, a side kind of sweep.
You can put some comparison shots up for the people to see.
Yeah, like he looks different is my point.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the other characters look slightly different, but they're still like pretty recognizable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like all the characters, if someone was to be like, who's that? And they're from the first movie, I'd say that Tony would be the one that people would be like, what? Mm-hmm. And that's maybe why the movie opens up with him. They were like, he looks very different, so maybe we should, you know, establish that he's there.
Yeah.
Those are other things I wanted to bring up. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up before? There's one thing that I wanted to, big thing that I want to say that's more of a critical thing. And I think it might be the big reason why I'm like struggling with this movie when it comes to how I feel about it.
Go ahead.
Should I go or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the big thing that's like giving me real problems, and what I think might be hampering might be like holding me back from saying this movie was really great, is the fact that I'm always a person who I really want to, you know, I really like to only judge a movie not on what I want it to be, what it is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I try not to let too many outside factors like taint my judgment. Mm-hmm. You know, when I judge something, but I feel like in this instance I can make an exception because I feel like it's important to how you judge a movie. And for me, a big reason why I'm like a little waffly about how I feel about this movie is because of how long it took for the sequel to come out. I feel like 14 years may have hurt this movie. And I don't think it's the movie's fault. Really, like I mean, I don't know if this movie would have fared better, in my opinion, if it had come out, you know, in like 2010 or something or mm-hmm. whatever. But I think it's I think the fact that the world is such a different place today as before it was in 2004, especially for superhero movies, I feel like that makes this particular one a little, that like hurt it a little more. You know, like I said, I feel like now that I feel like this movie feels a little more like a Marvel movie than, I mean, it's not totally a Marvel movie, but it's parts of it feels like it is. And the thing about the first Incredibles is that it came out, you know, at a time superhero movies were not the big bomb they are today. the biggest high-profile movie about superheroes that had come out before that point was the Spider-Man movies. The first one, or maybe the second one, recently come out.
The second one had just come out that year. Yeah.
Yeah. So like before The Incredibles, like Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, was like the only other really big movie that was superhero related that people knew about. You know, for the most part, superhero movies were not big blockbusters. They weren't, you know, big things. And, you know, again, also Pixar was at a different point in its life too. It was still a fledgling studio, you know, for The Incredibles. It had only had, 4 movies under its belt at that time?
I think a few more.
Like, there was Toy Story, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, and Monsters, Inc. I don't think there had been any other movies before that point, before The Incredibles. I think that, Finding Nemo, actually. Was Finding Nemo before or after The Incredibles? I always mix those two up.
Let's figure it out.
My point, though, is that even in 2004, Pixar wasn't nearly as established of thing as, you know, is now.
Yeah. It was Nemo did come out before Incredibles.
Okay, yeah. So like Finding Nemo, like, but you know, like was the original movie, was the next original movie that had come out, and like, I mean, like, you know, even 4 good movies is pretty like hard. You know what I mean? And it was also the first movie that they had done with like humans. I mean, so it's like it was a very landmark movie, and The Incredibles is also just very different in terms of superhero movies than even at the time. So, you know, like I feel like The Incredibles is a good movie on its own merits, but I also think it came out at the right time too. I feel like this movie came out at a time where, like, I guess because superhero movies are just so much and everywhere that it kind of has to be pretty different, you know, in order for it to be like really good. And I also feel like this movie sort of also hits a little bit of the same beats as the first one in a way that feels a little too deja vu-y in some areas. And I feel like I would have enjoyed the movie a little more if they had, you know, taken a little more risks, done something completely different. And I almost would have maybe preferred the movie to have like jumped further in time too. Like, instead of it being still like literally right after the first movie, I feel like I almost would have wanted it to be like after having seen this one. I feel like I would have preferred it if they had just acknowledged that time has passed and sort of set into the story, you know? I like I said, I feel like the fact that it's been 14 years has just for some reason made this movie not as good as it could have been. And I feel like, you know, in this age of superheroes, it kind of weakened it. But again, it's really hard for me to describe that. And I don't know, maybe I'm being really unfair. You know, I recognize that I could be, and I'm sorry. But I'm not sure what else it is about this movie that kind of makes it hard for me to grab to it in the way that I want to, you know? And I want to say maybe it came out too late for me. I don't know. And it's not really happy, and I'm not really happy to say that. Like, I want to really like this movie. I really do. There's something about it that just makes it look a little bit harder for me to be like, this is as good as The Incredibles, not better. Like, I think it's definitely inferior to the original movie. By how much? I feel like on whatever days you ask me, that might change. Some days I might be like, just a little. Maybe something to be like, maybe a lot more, you know. Yeah, it's just really difficult for me to like congeal how I feel about this movie. And I I think time might be a factor or a bigger factor, or maybe it's not a bigger factor. I guess I also maybe it's I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
There
think
too many side plots. I don't know.
think
It's just like a lot.
Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm at a big loss as to why this movie isn't gravitating to me as much as I want to. And I don't know, maybe there isn't an easy answer. I have a feeling it's a lot of things. But I don't know, maybe like in a couple of days I'll have an answer for you than what I have now. But that's all I got.
I mean, I know I'm not as critical of you, but I still think I find this to have been a good movie. I don't think starting it right after
Mm-hmm.
was bad because
No,
it was
I don't really think it was necessarily bad. I don't know. I feel like if I were to edit the script, I feel like I would have said maybe move it a little bit further into the past, because I feel like maybe seeing what happens after superheroes become little again would have been more interesting. Maybe, I don't know. What were you saying? Because I interrupted you, and I'm sorry about that.
You're good. But I think starting off at the same era was good, because these are the people we are established to know, and from the previous movie, and like while they did reestablish them, very well, I think, especially with new circumstances of the kids having accepted their powers and use of them, to an extent, with Violet being a little back and forth on that issue during the movie, but and then seeing what happens after the whole Underminer comes out, and just tying it up so it makes sense within the universe, because they do have to they do one thing that's a little odd is like they get dressed up and they're like, wait, should we be doing this? But like it still makes sense, because that question is still a big part of what's going on in the movie, is that they are doing it, but it is still illegal for them to be doing it. And the plot is good. I watched the video recently and it discussed that the part of I'm pretty sure it was most specifically like Bob being in charge of the kids, but I think the Helen part was also in the plot, but that bit was there from when he started thinking about Incredibles 2 and never left the table while they were working on it. And I think doing it at this time would definitely have been the best way for an immediate, after the first, well, not necessarily immediate, because there was a 3-month gap between when Syndrome is defeated and the start of this one, technically. Because that. Which then makes me question, where were they living for 3 months?
That's a good point. I don't know.
Because like they bring up the fact that they don't have a lot, because I guess they never really got stuff after their house blew up.
Plot hole? I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, I think I feel like the movie was well crafted, well constructed. Like, yes, the Evelyn's plot is an extreme response to a minor thing, but again, that is what Winston's purpose in this movie is just in the exact opposite direction. I like the contrast, basically the foil of the response. I like how the character's portrayed. The only thing I'd say I would be most critical of would be the screenslaver's demands or message of like, oh, this is why I am the villain. and being kind of like critical of modern day people being not so focused on their screens and whatnot, and then that's not really the point of the screensaver, and not something
Yeah.
that's brought up later. So like that's just a weird thread, but like it makes sense because the Evelyn is trying to hide her intentions, so it's not maybe not something she necessarily believes in, um, but is something used because she knows what the plan is. So she's just drawing. She's just making sure he takes his time to make sure Elastigirl gets there, to get the screenslaver. Yeah.
Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to say?
I mean, I was just going to kind of wrap up at this point and just be like, I do disagree with Alyssa a bit. I definitely think it's at the very least equal with the original Incredibles. Whether it's better, I'm not entirely certain on that, but I do think it's at the very least equal. A good addition to the Incredibles universe. It would have been nice if the gap in time was smaller. Yeah, definitely, because I want to see more.
Right.
But I also saw, and it's the same thing I saw the I mentioned before. Also discussed not Bob Parr. He's a character in the movie. Brad Bird, who wrote the film, does not like to be contained to one project for a long period of time. So he took his break, came back, and did his work. And I can't disagree with that in people not wanting to be stuck on the same project for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
But I'm glad this exists. I am happy to have seen it, and I think I think you should go see it. I mean, like, yes, there are a lot of superhero movies out, and to an extent, there's similar plot stuff with Marvel stuff, since there's stuff about like superheroes being illegal. But the Incredibles movie did it first. It's not necessarily like, oh, they did this in the Marvel movie, so we're going to do it in this movie. It's just that's what was established in universe already, and they had to continue to address it. But I think it's a nice difference from the other movies we've been getting, because it's a nice family superhero movie, and is more of a family movie. It's more, to an extent. Both the first one and this one are a bit of like family movies and discussing like strong family stuff. It just happens that the family happens to have superpowers, and that also has to be added into the equation.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe I'm being too soft.
I don't know. But yeah, I guess for me, my final thoughts, again, like I want to stress that I don't hate this movie, nor do I even think it's like even just an okay movie. Like I think it's good. I think it, like, I feel like it's at the very least it's probably on a ranking like above average. Like maybe between like a 5 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10 for me. Somewhere in there, in that range. What star it is, I have no clue, and I feel like it fluctuates a lot for me. Something about this movie just doesn't completely work for me, and I feel like, again, for me, the whole isn't as good as the sum of its parts. I feel like there are parts of this movie that I really like and I think are really great, but I don't feel like it gels together all quite the way it should. And again, I'm not sure what that is. I feel like someone else needs to tell me what that is, and then maybe I'll be like, oh yeah, but there's something about it that just didn't sit right with me, which means that for me at least, this movie is under the original Incredibles. I don't think it's as good. How much worse is it? Like, again, that's good. I'm not sure how much. It's very fluctuating, and I don't know when I'll be able to solidify my feelings on it. But I still would recommend going to see it if you've been one of those people who've been waiting for a sequel ever since you were younger and you wanted to see this movie, then go out and see it. I'm sure you'll love it. If you've been a little like hesitant to see it, like maybe you've been like, I'm not sure, or maybe you've seen the trailer and you're like, this doesn't look too good, I feel like you probably might have the same problems as me. Maybe you'd be able to have more succinct reasons why, but like, still pretty. So I don't know. Again, I think it's good. I feel a movie worth seeing. I don't know how urgently I'd urge you to see it. It depends on who you are. I don't know. I guess for me, my if I were to sum up this movie, my feelings for this movie in one sentence, it would be it's complicated. Is where I would leave it. At least for one thing, I don't know if it's been a while since I've had the complicated emotions about a movie.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I think of all the other movies we've talked about on the show, it's been, I've either really liked it, I've had like a very distinct feeling about the movie, I've either been very clear about how I feel like I've been very clear about how I feel about it, and like why I felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you'd agree with me there, but SoundJack.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's like I'm pretty consistent. But I feel like this is the first time on this podcast, at least, that I've had a movie where I'm not sure how to articulate how I feel about it. And even though I have mentioned things I didn't like, as well as things that I feel like are impacting my emotions, I still don't know if those things are actually what it is, or if it's something else, or maybe I just need to see it again. Maybe like I don't know. There's like a whole, there's like a lot of variables floating around my head, and I don't know which one is right, which is wrong. So.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's basically it for me.
Yeah. And I kind of summed up my points before, so unless there's anything else you want to mention about this movie?
Nope.
Then, yeah, that's our review of The Incredibles 2. I will say I'm a little bit surprised by your views, and like I can kind of see a couple of the points, but it still sounds like you're not sure why what you're feeling.
Yeah, I'm really not. Like, it's so I literally before we were recording, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna sound so like all over the place because still have not. Which is also kind of why I didn't want to, like, because we went to see this movie together. I guess we should have said that earlier.
Yeah.
But when we were coming out of the theater, I really didn't want to say anything about it because I had so many emotions that I didn't know if I could say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just, and I thought like my opinion of I liked it. It wasn't as good as the first movie was like as succinct as I could get.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There's just like I have a lot of. I feel like there's like a large battle in my head going on, and I agree that you have such that you're just easy. I almost just want to be able to just flat out feel like or flat out say I hate this, flat out say I love this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish I could have like that instant I know what I feel, but for this one I'm just so like about it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's all we have to say on this movie. So if you want to get in touch with us, Alyssa, where can people find you?
At Ashima on Twitter. Feel free to @me, especially if you want to bug me about this. I'm sure if there are any huge fans of The Incredibles, I might get some hate for it. Please don't hate me. I promise that I'm not trying to turn this movie, I swear. I hope I'm not sounding unfair. Oh, I feel really guilty.
They're your opinions. You can have opinions.
I know. Yeah, but that's Twitter. Feel free to talk to me there. What about you?
And as for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SoundJack426. You can also check me out at Nerdy Geek Talk, where I am on the DLCB Pods pretty regularly. I've been in charge of that show pretty regularly for a few weeks, just because Eric has been busy. But you should also like this video and subscribe to the channel, and you can also check out my Patreon account if you want to help support the channel. Links are in the description below. And thanks for tuning in. This is SoundJack and Alyssa signing off.